I have Mr. Siddharth Goel with us today to share about toxins, how do we get them, and what are the various ways, in which we can get them out of our system. So a bit about Siddharth. So I work closely with Siddharth, so I know him for some time now. So he comes from a corporate background. He's a certified Hatha yoga trainer. And now he is completely into functional medicine. He's one of the India's first, among the first functional health coaches. And he's the co-founder of Hormone Reset Program, which is a beautiful combination of functional medicine and yogic principles. And over to you, Siddharth, to share with us more on toxins.
Thank you for having me here, and very good morning to all the panelists and the other members. I guess we are all short on time, so I will share my screen. I hope everybody can see it.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
So out there in the world, there is a lot of confusion about the reasons of autoimmunity. It's like, people put up their hands and say, oh, I don't know why this is happening, right? And even practitioners have a similar approach. And the best that is offered is somehow you manage your symptoms and, go on for the rest of your life, right? So this is a conventional thought process that is actually an incurable genetic disease requiring a lifetime of intervention with different types of medicines. Whereas the functional medicine approach is saying that there are a whole lot of environmental factors which are behind your immune system going off balance and beginning to attack your own tissues, your own organs itself, right? And as you can see on the screen, chronic stress, viruses, bacteria, certain types of medicines, hormonal imbalances, deficiencies, and toxins. All of these on their own or in combination can trigger autoimmunity in people who are genetically susceptible. So genes are also playing a role. We are not saying genes are not playing a role, but that is probably limited to 15 or 20%. Remaining is environmental factors. So, in other words, we say genes can load the gun, but it is the environment that we give to the body that pulls the trigger or not. Right? So what are the underlying reasons of autoimmunity? A poor diet, heavy metals and other toxins, chronic infections, parasites. Dr. Visalam spoke a lot about infections and parasites just now, right? Poor liver health and poor liver function, impaired gut health. Once again, in fact, the last two sessions also touched upon gut health to quite some extent. And poor mitochondrial function. So once again, this is a very little known thing that the health and condition of your mitochondria is actually playing a huge role in the development and worsening of autoimmunity. One can do a complete session just on how mitochondria impacts the immune function. And chronic stress is often the big elephant in the room. I think there was some session which touched upon this yesterday, a couple of sessions. So yes, chronic stress is a big thing. And why it's a big elephant in the room is because somehow we have gotten so used to it that we don't even recognize that we are stressed out, right? Most of the time. And yes, there is a genetic predisposition, no doubt about it. So out of all of these reasons, we are going to focus on the heavy metal and other toxins today in this session. So just quickly, right, there can be many different types of toxins. Heavy metals is just one category. Toxins could be naturally occurring, coming from animals, plant or food allergens, pesticides, herbicides, etc. Persistent organic pollutants, which stay in the environment and in our bodies and don't get broken down easily. VOCs, plastic components, air pollution, etc. Right? So there are many sources of toxicity today. As a matter of fact, the modern civilization is a very toxic civilization. In the umbilical cord blood of newborn babies, dozens and dozens of different toxins are being found all over the world. Now, the problem is that toxicity can be very confusing, right? Toxins can come from outside. We just looked at a whole list, right? But toxins can also be internal. The gut microbiome and other microbiota in the body are also producing chemicals which are toxic to us, right? And also, every cell in the body, just in the process of metabolism, right, of living in simple terms, is actually going to be producing and releasing certain amount of toxins into the body, right? And what about the mind and emotions? They can also be quite toxic, right? Right. So also please remember that natural does not necessarily always mean safe. Yes, unnatural man-made substances can be more damaging, but natural also can be damaging. Very important to remember is that what is toxic for one person can be completely safe for another, because our ability to detoxify our bodies is very, very uniquely individual. Okay. Two people can be exposed to the same amount of toxicity. One person is absolutely fine, the other person is completely sick after that. Okay, it's very much possible. And that is also why the scientific community and the conventional medical community has been really struggling with this. Okay, so let's look at this very, very important thing. That again, the conventional thought process is that small amounts don't make a difference. Only when you are exposed to a large dose of toxins, then you have to worry about it. That is actually not true, and there is more science which is proving this. Okay, very, very low levels of lead exposure or other toxic exposures are leading to much higher level of disease burden as well as mortality. Now, again, a very little understood and a very, very important concept. The toxicity studies that are done are always done on one toxin at a time. But none of us are exposed to just one toxin, isn't it? We are living in a toxic world today. So there is something called the NEL level. So certain amount of toxin, if it goes into your body, there is no symptom. There is no change that you can observe, right? So it is believed to be harmless. So an experiment was done on some animals, obviously, where the NEL level of mercury was given to this animal and there was no observable symptoms. The animals are absolutely fine. And after that, just 5% of the NEL level of lead was introduced into the animals' bodies. What do you think happened? Suddenly they all fell sick? Not only did they fall sick, it killed all the animals. Okay. So when multiple toxins are combined, the combined total toxicity may not necessarily become double or 3 times. It can become 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times also. Okay. So this is only 2 toxins. How many are we being exposed to today on a daily basis, on a regular basis, right? The food that we are eating is toxic. The water we are drinking is toxic. The air we are breathing is toxic, right? Recently, those of you who are in Bangalore, you might remember last month there was a report in the Deccan Herald newspaper where they went to different vegetable markets in the city and they picked up random vegetables and tested them in the lab. Many vegetables had 30, 40, 50 times the permitted level of heavy metals in them. So when you're eating this kind of food and you're not focusing at all on any detoxification, well, it's going to be very difficult to stay healthy for too long, isn't it? So coming back to heavy metals, there are many heavy metals. Some of them are toxic. The most common ones are mercury, lead, aluminium, cadmium, arsenic, etc. Okay, these are the ones which we encounter the most in our environment, right? They have become highly concentrated because of industrial activity, and they can enter the body through any route, through food, ingestion, or water, right? Or even inhalation and through skin absorption. And the damage they cause to the body is vast. There is literally no organ, no tissue in the body that is safe. Okay, they create a lot of inflammation, right? The first speaker, Nikki, was talking about how inflammation is the foundation of chronic health issues, right? There are terms like inflammaging or some other terms also, which essentially are trying to help us understand that inflammation is very, very a crucial part of chronic diseases. By the way, cardiovascular diseases and many other issues are also connected with out of control inflammation, right? Heavy metals always disrupt the fundamental immune processes, triggering autoimmune reactions. I'm sure many of you are aware that a lot of vaccines contain heavy metals like aluminium. Why? It is used as an adjuvant. The job is to trigger the immune system into hyperactivity, right? Into more aggressive behavior. So you can imagine that is exactly what is the beginning step of autoimmunity. Your immune system has become excessively aggressive, right? They definitely damage the mitochondria. One of the key symptoms of heavy metal toxicity is fatigue, chronic fatigue, tiredness, etc. Right? And they cause massive damage to the neurons. In fact, there's a short video. I'll see if I can share the link in the chat for all of you to watch later. Just a 2-minute video where with a microscope they are showing the neurons, and a small amount of mercury is introduced, and immediately the neurons start dying. It's amazing to watch. Okay. As I said earlier, there is no tissue or organ or function of the body that is really safe from heavy metal toxicity. Just a small list of different health issues, different diseases that are connected with toxicity. Okay, literally everything. Okay, literally everything. It's playing a role in a lot of chronic health issues today. Well, you might ask, how do I test for this? Toxicity testing can be a little confusing because the toxicity burden in your blood and in your tissues is very different. Okay, you can do a blood test. For example, ThyroCare has a very nice panel of 22 heavy metals, 22 toxins, and it just costs 1,000 rupees if I am not wrong, right? But this is going to tell you what's happening in the blood. Body will always try to keep these toxins away from the blood, right? So this is generally an indicator of those toxins which have recently entered the body or which have come out from the tissues, from storage. Okay. Apart from this, you can also test this in urine and hair. Gives you the long-term picture of what is the actual body burden in the long run, right? So the testing can be done in hair, urine, blood, stool, saliva, etc. And fat tissue biopsies, etc. also are done. It's not necessary to do all of these. Just doing blood and maybe hair can give you a good idea of what is the acute level and what is the chronic level of toxicity. This is a sample of the hair mineral hair sample test, where you can see different heavy metals mentioned here. We do these tests for almost all of our patients actually. Okay. Now, while we will talk about how to get rid of toxins, but getting rid of toxins is going to be of very limited benefit unless we also figure out how to avoid getting more of them, right? So these are very simple things that one can start incorporating, right? Ensure there is a certain amount of fresh air. Don't keep your doors and windows closed all the time. And obviously, you have to ensure that you're living in an area or working in an area where the outdoor air is reasonably clean, or you can use air purifier in your house or office. Ensure that the water is properly filtered, and definitely eat organic, whole, good quality food. Ensure that the source is confirmed that you're getting it from a good source, because a lot of organic today may not necessarily be organic, right? Because it sells at a much higher price, and it's very difficult for us to really, be sure of these things. Sleep is very important, not just to avoid toxicity, but for many other chronic health issues, right? Unless you're sleeping well, the body's detoxification processes will not work effectively, right? And also avoiding caffeine, after the late morning will help you sleep better, and also helps in keeping your nervous system relaxed. A lot of toxins today are actually entering our body through the personal care products that we use. Okay. And also these cleaning products. So these are simple things that I'm sure most of us are aware of already, but we may not have understood that how big an impact they can have, right? Very, very important to also understand that the normal soaps that most of us use may not necessarily be the best option. Using something organic and natural is way better. And you can also filter your shower or bath water. The small, fixtures that are easily available, which you can just have them attached to the water supply in your bathrooms. Now, when you have figured out that the body has accumulated a certain amount of toxins, and this is true for most of us. Once, let's say, if you have crossed 40 years of age, most of our bodies have accumulated a significant amount of toxicity, whether this is generated internally or it has been accumulated from outside. And the kind of lifestyles we are living today are not really very supportive for natural detoxification as well. So how do you prepare the body for detox? See, one thing we need to remember is that it is a very heavy nutrient demand on the body. And most of our bodies are already depleted, right? So the main nutrients that we need to ensure are available in a very good quantity in the body are most of these, vitamins, all the B vitamins and the fat soluble vitamins A, C, D, E, K, etc. Minerals are also needed: iron, magnesium, zinc, molybdenum, selenium, etc. And a lot of enzymes are needed. See, in terms of the chemical reactions inside the body, these are facilitated by enzymes, right? Amino acids also needed for detoxification. For the more, geeky ones amongst this group, and especially for the practitioners, it is very, very important to ensure that the key metabolic processes of methylation, sulfation, etc. are active. They're working well. Because if they're not working well, please do not start doing detoxification. It's going to backfire. Okay. Glutathione and alpha lipoic acid are also nutrients that support the body in terms of detoxification in many ways. But on their own, they're also mild chelators. What are chelators? We'll look at them in the next slide. In terms of other nutrients, cruciferous vegetables are very important. Omega-3, very good quantity of omega-3, curcumin, lycopene from tomatoes, quercetin, astaxanthin, resveratrol, etc. And physical activity and exercise to ensure that the circulation is moving not only for the blood, but more importantly for the lymphatic system, right? Additionally, before you get into any significant detoxification, it's important to ensure that the health of the primary detox organs like your liver and your kidneys and your large intestine, and also lungs to some extent, is good. Okay, because if these organs are not functioning optimally, it will be difficult to detox the body properly. Also, what will happen is you will pull out the toxins from the cells and the tissues, but then these organs are not working well, which means now you are you're moved from the frying pan into the fire. When these toxins were stored inside the fat cells, inside the tissues, they were not really causing so much damage. When you pull them out into circulation, they actually become more oxidizing, more damaging, right? So very, very important to work backwards, make sure that the channels of detoxification are open. The body has what it needs to be able to get rid of the toxins efficiently. Now, chelators or chelators and binders. Chelation is a gold standard, right, for removing heavy metals from the body. As a matter of fact, when I started, toxicity and detoxification is something which is very close to my heart. And when I started reading more about chelation, I realized that before the our medical system became capable of doing bypass surgery, chelation was the gold standard for blocked arteries, cardiovascular disease. Okay, it's going up. So chelation means to form a claw or grab, right? So the chelators claw or grab the toxins and escort them from the body. So chelators are essentially artificial amino acids, which the body treats as a foreign substance. It wants to get it out. So essentially, your toxins are getting a free ride outside, from the body into the toilet bowl along with the chelator. The most common chelators are EDTA, DMSA, and DMPS, and there are also natural substances like humic and fulvic acid and modified citrus pectin, etc., which can be used as effective chelators. To some extent, the choice of which chelator we are going to use depends on what kind of heavy metal toxicity is present, right? And as I said earlier, alpha lipoic acid and glutathione also work as mild chelators. This is something I just mentioned in the previous slide, that unless your downstream organs of removal of toxins from the body are active, your intestine, your kidney, your liver, pulling toxins out into circulation can increase the inflammation and oxidation if the body cannot keep up, right? And in this context, IV chelation actually becomes particularly aggressive. This is not, against practitioners or doctors who are doing it in a proper manner, taking care of all of these things, but this is just to educate everybody else out there. If it is not done properly, it can become a little aggressive. Now, a little bit about binders. See, sometimes what will happen is your chelator may not be able to grab onto the toxin, effectively all the time, or there are toxins which are there anyways in your gut, etc., right? Especially from the gut. Your binders will work as an agent that can attract and trap the toxins, mainly in the gut, so that they can also be removed more easily from the body instead of getting reabsorbed. See, the major function of the gut is to reabsorb, right? Or absorb the food and other substances. So chlorella, activated charcoal, bentonite clay, aspulardi, and a few other probiotics, they work very well as binders. When you are doing chelation, it's a good idea to take some broad spectrum binder along with it. Now, chelation can be done orally through IV or via the suppository route. In my understanding, IV chelation, although it's considered to be the gold standard of chelation, and in terms of acute poisoning, acute toxicity, this is the way to go, but it tends to be a little expensive and also invasive, right? You have to sit with a needle, IV going into your body for a couple of hours every 2-3 days. And you need to do that for 20-30 times, right? So it can become time consuming as well. You have to travel to the chelation center and spend a few hours there and then travel back, etc. Unfortunately, the oral method is not very effective because the absorption is very poor. The stomach acid will degrade or break it down to a large extent. And generally only 5, 10, 15% will be absorbed, and even that might further be broken down by your liver because the liver will treat it as a foreign substance, right? And sometimes, depending on the health of your gut, oral chelation can also damage the gut a little bit. So what we have found in our practice is that suppositories bypass most of these disadvantages. They are much cheaper and also have a effectiveness which is very close to IV. Okay. And they have minimal and side effects because the dosage is very small. It enters the body very, very slowly, and therefore a smaller dosage can do the same work. And because most of the blood from the rectum does not go to the liver, they bypass the gut and the liver completely and are not broken down over there, right? So with a much smaller dosage, you can have the same effect. So the chelator that we have started, using, it has become the option of choice for us as detoxamine. It is safe to use for everyone, including young children. We have used it for young children, adults, senior citizens, and everybody, and we have seen very good results. So as I said earlier, this is highly effective because the absorption happens very slowly, and therefore we can work with much smaller quantities. And it stays longer in the blood. It has been shown to stay in the blood for up to 8 hours, etc. And you can use it at night, and you can just go to sleep 7-8 hours. By the time you wake up, its work is done. And it also actually encounters less metabolic competition through that route. The ingredient we use is calcium disodium EDTA, which is a powerful chelator of mercury, lead, aluminium, cadmium, and tin, etc. There are other metals also it removes, but these are the ones that it has the highest affinity to. Okay. Very interestingly, and I'm sure many of you will, you'll understand the importance of a good amount of internal production of nitric oxide. In many studies, this has been shown to increase the production of nitric oxide by the endothelium of our arteries. Okay, very, very important for good cardiovascular health, also nervous system health. In addition to detoxamine, depending on the cases, we also use oral DMSA actively, and we have seen some amazing results. Okay, here we have a couple of case studies. This is you can see the mercury 8.39 in January, and by June it has come down to 2 point something, and aluminium was 12, it has come down to 6 or 7. Okay. This is without doing any IV, etc. Okay. Another one where mercury of 3 something, lead 72, and aluminium of 17, it has come down to 0.2 for mercury, lead has come down to 44, and aluminium has come down to below 8. So we have seen very, very good results in cardiovascular issues, in diabetic gangrene, in neuropathy, in brain-related issues, lot of different kind of issues. Macular degeneration is something I had never expected, will benefit from this process, but we have seen results over there as well. So what has happened is that these both DMSA and detoxamine were not available in India. We've struggled over the last 1.5 years, and now we are able to get them into India. So we are, just to ensure that this is available to all the practitioners and other people who want to make use of them, we are happy to share this with anybody who's interested. Oh, and that ends my time.
Are you done, or you still have a slide, Siddharth?
No, this was the last slide, actually.
Perfect. All right. So thank you so much for enlightening our participants here on heavy metals and what we can do about it. Given today's theme is all about autoimmunity, and we see, in our practice, high loads of lead,
Yes.
aluminium, mercury, right? So do you want to share, in brief, what would be the process if someone comes to you, an autoimmune condition with high levels of lead, for instance?
Well, good question, Dr. Ruhi. So first thing, as I said, is it's important to ensure that their body is in a condition where detoxification can happen efficiently without any, side effects. So we always prepare the body with better nutrition, the basic supplements, basic vitamins, minerals, etc. And only then we start the chelation process, whether we do oral or IV or detoxamine, depending on the case. But the important thing is that the body is prepared for it. And also, I mean, there's obviously some certain nuances that need to be explained to people. When the toxins are coming out, there can be small flare-ups of their symptoms, and they need to be educated in advance that they need not, think of it as a problem or as a reaction. It's part of the process. And I've seen that myself.
So
those flare-ups I've seen for myself as well.
Yes, so we have to first support the organs, and then use the chelators along with that, and
Yes.
not directly jump into chelators. So
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. I request you to please stay back and answer some questions in the chat.
Sure. Thank you.